What if I told you that some of the most ordinary foods in your kitchen, tea, pepper, even potatoes, were once so precious, so politically powerful, that entire kingdoms made them illegal to buy, sell, or even grow, unless you were willing to risk your life? Imagine a world where a handful of peppercorns could buy land, where a single tea plant was guarded more fiercely than gold, and where smugglers, merchants, monks, sailors risked prison, torture, even execution, all to move food across forbidden borders. Before oil, before diamonds, there was pepper. In medieval Europe, pepper became currency, not metaphorically, literally. By the 11th century, European rulers imposed strict monopolies. Pepper imports were tightly controlled by Venice. Anyone caught smuggling pepper from the east, especially through Arab or Genoese intermediaries, could lose everything. Starting from Malabar coast of India, pepper took this route to reach Europe. Smugglers hid pepper in hollowed-out walking sticks, inside waxed barrels labeled as fish oil, and even stitched into double-layered sails. Why? Because the price markup in Europe was as high as 5,000%. Next stop is tea. For centuries, China held a monopoly on tea. Not just the leaves, the plants, the seeds, the knowledge of processing. Exporting tea plants or teaching foreigners how to grow tea was punishable by death under Qing law. Enter Robert Fortune, a Scottish botanist hired by the British East India Company. In 1848, disguised as a Chinese merchant, Fortune infiltrated restricted tea-growing regions, sometimes traveling hundreds of miles inland despite heavy patrols. He smuggled thousands of tea plants, skilled tea workers, detailed manuals on fermentation, rolling, and drying. And he sent them to Darjeeling and Assam, breaking China's global monopoly forever. It was one of the most successful acts of industrial espionage in history over a beverage. Salt wasn't always cheap. For centuries, governments treated it like strategic weaponry. French kings imposed the gabelle, a hated salt tax. Citizens were forced to buy minimum quantities at inflated prices. Evading the tax? Illegal. Punishment: imprisonment, forced labor, or worse. Smugglers, known as faux sauniers, developed entire underground networks. They moved salt through. By the 18th century, over 3,000 people a year were being arrested for smuggling salt in France. This wasn't petty crime, it was an act of rebellion that helped fuel the French Revolution. It's hard to believe, but in several European regions, potatoes were once banned. Why? Two reasons. Authorities feared they caused leprosy, since they weren't mentioned in the Bible. Grain merchants lobbied to keep potatoes illegal to protect their profits. But farmers saw the truth. Potatoes were hardy, drought-resistant, and life-saving. So they grew them secretly. When Prussia legalized potatoes, smugglers in Austria transported sacks across borders at night, navigating swamp trails and bribing border guards with a share of the harvest. Next stop is this fragrant spice, nutmeg. The Banda Islands, tiny volcanic specks in the Indonesian archipelago, were once the only place on Earth with nutmeg trees. The Dutch East India Company, VOC, declared total monopoly. Smuggling even a single nutmeg seed was punishable by death. VOC soldiers inspected ships, merchants, even clothing for hidden seeds. But they didn't count on birds. Smugglers collected seeds that birds naturally dispersed along shoreline trails, far from VOC patrol posts, and smuggled them out in bamboo tubes or mixed into cargo of sago flour. Eventually, the French, led by Pierre Poivre, yes, Mr. Pepper, successfully transplanted nutmeg to Mauritius and the Seychelles. Monopoly broken. Food smuggling didn't vanish. Today, entire black markets exist for items like Kobe beef, illegal to import in some countries; raw milk cheeses banned over safety fears; bluefin tuna, protected but still trafficked; high-value truffles stolen from private forests; maple syrup reserves guarded like gold in Canada. When demand meets scarcity, history repeats itself. What if the foods we take for granted today suddenly became restricted again? What if sugar, coffee, or rice required government permits? Would smugglers vanish or return by night along the same forgotten routes? History tells us the answer. As long as humans crave flavor, profit, and power, there will always be smugglers. Burly Barley signing off. Let me know the food you're willing to smuggle and why. We may pick it up for our next food story.